Alright, here's my latest commercial vacuum find. A Castex Lite Trac. Now, I'll be honest and say that these machines, I'd seen them before on eBay. It seems like I saw one in person somewhere that I had the opportunity to get, but it was in such bad shape I passed up on it. Usually you see these and they're called a UV 1600. That's what I see most on eBay. Same machine, just a different model number for some reason. Or model name, I should say. Although they do tend to carry a different model number. Rather than LT 1601, it would be model UV 1600. The 1600 comes from the fact that it is a 16-inch wide nozzle. This is the first one I've actually ever had where I've been able to play with it in person. Like I said, these machines previously I'd never really, probably something to do with the fact that every single one I'd seen was pretty beat up and very filthy. But this one actually ended up catching my interest, I should say. Well, how I ended up getting this is the original owner worked at a I don't know if he still works there or if he's retired or not, but he works at a local janitorial supply company, which is how he came to own it. He used it in his house. It was never used for commercial use, and it was only a second machine. It was never his primary vacuum. I suspect it was either, he used it in his basement. He never seemed to be very fond of this machine. My suspicion is either he thought it was, too big, too wide, too heavy, something. It just wasn't, what he, I guess, wanted in a vacuum for his house. So he bought the bags. He bought bags for it from us, is how this came to be known by me, this machine. And I had mentioned something about, if he ever needs more bags, and he said that he was probably not going to keep the machine long enough to need another package of bags. He wanted to use it for, I guess he had some vacuuming in mind that he wanted to use it for, and then either, for some reason, he was planning on letting it go soon. Said he was probably going to throw it out soon. Anyway, so I offered instead to take it off his hands, and he agreed to bring it in whenever he was, no longer interested in keeping it. And that day happened to be Friday. It was dusty. I, only had to wipe it down. The machine, he said that it wasn't. He said it was leaving dirt down in the nozzle. It wasn't picking it up into the bag correctly. The bag basically is like resembles an Electrolux upright. This machine in many ways to me does. Especially in this, you push the tab and the bag door hinges open. And then you have, you've even got this thing like the Electrolux upright has that swings up to prevent the lid from closing should you attempt to close the lid without a bag installed. But when I got it, the cardboard had also like the Electrolux, you close the lid and it punches the bag open. For whatever reason, it punched the bag cardboard down into the bag chamber and was not sealing against the bag top. So it was leaking air that way, and it also leaked a bunch of dirt. And primarily pet hair, lots and lots of dog hair down into, if you can see it, the premotor foam filter. There which I removed, vacuumed, and washed. Of course, a fresh bag. It's actually a very good sized bag. It's a bit taller of a bag than what what the Electrolux uses. So I cleaned up the pet hair from that filter, wiped out the bag chamber. After vacuuming it out, and then I also took the motor out and cleaned the pet hair out of that area, which is motor is very easily gotten into. This is your post motor filter. This baby slides off, and then you've got a foam filter in there, and you can sort of see in there the lamb motor. It's just a single fan lamb motor. It's mounted in sort of a spacer that basically gives, the top of the spacer is flush with the back of this. It's actually held in by these screws. And then the spacer is deep enough for the electrical part of the motor to sit in, and then the fan housing sticks out further. It's only a single fan. I don't think that there's actually room for a twin fan motor in there. I don't think that I think that it would hit the... Again, this is not always the easiest thing to do single-handed. There we go. Get you back in there. It has a 6-position height adjustment with that little knob there. The most interesting thing about it has got to be the belt setup. Now, I don't feel like taking all the screws off the bottom. Oh, you can see I've got some. Make sure we don't turn the machine on because I've got it plugged in. There we go. The belt setup. However, I do have a picture of it, which actually is nice because then it's a sort of blown up image. This is a picture of the machine. I took it when I had this off and cleaned the brush off and wiped down the nozzle area. It was really quite clean when I got it. As you can see though, I've got some string and stuff. But here's the belt setup. It uses two, these are about the diameter of the old style sewing machine belts. Those round rubber stretch belts. That's about how thick the rubber belt is. Diameter wise, it's, it runs from here to here. But I've never seen a machine that used such thin belts, and I've never seen a machine that used two belts side by side like this. Usually you have one belt that runs to a pulley, and then, that kind of a setup on a dual belt machine. But this one, it's actually just a standard Lamb Amtech motor like you'd find in a Eureka or a Filter Queen power nozzle. It's actually more like the Filter Queen power nozzle because it's I believe it's a short shaft, not the long shaft. It's very unique, but it works well. Oh, look, that thing doesn't like to stay. It's obviously a dual motor machine. Here's the switch that when you put the handle upright, it pushes that switch to shut the brush off. Which is a nice touch. It's also a machine that I've never, especially a machine like this. Usually what you see made out of this kind of plastic would be the large wide area machines, or the big wet dry machines, or an extractor. I believe it's a blow molded process, but it's very sturdy. I could stand on the nozzle, twist the handle, and really there's no movement. It's an incredibly sturdy machine. I would say I consider, Windsor's, the Sebo built machines to be some of the sturdiest, most indestructible machines you can buy. But I would say this one almost, I would say, is almost more durable, more sturdy in the construction of it than that even. Very simple design as well. There's not a lot to it, which is a good thing. There's a circuit breaker for the motor, for the suction motor. Well, I don't know if it's the suction motor or the brush motor, to be honest with you, or both. But there's the circuit breaker. It's kind of an interesting. I think they used the Electrolux upright sort of as their inspiration in some ways. But there's some things that seem Sebo-like about it, as well as like the single wheel in the front, that sort of thing. Anyway, well, let's turn it on and watch it vacuum. It grooms very well the carpet. It grooms the carpet very well. You can see it really does groom the carpet very nicely. I have it set on, I think, 4 or 5, the height adjustment. To use the hose, you just simply pull it out. That's just basically, it's just a straight shot into the nozzle. It's got actually a pretty decent length hose. Only downside, it's mounted from the top, so it's easily knocked over. The only attachments that this machine came with standard, I don't have the original crevice tool. It just had a black plastic crevice tool. I believe this is where it was stored. It looks like the right place for it, and one plastic wand, which I think it's kind of ingenious, the way they came up with mounting it with these, instead of devising some bracket. The other thing that I've noticed, I guess I'll point out, is the nozzle design. It picks up dirt very quickly, especially large debris. It doesn't kick it around much. Now the reasoning, it's hard to see with the brush in it and everything, but there's a groove back here behind the brush, sort of like what you would find in a Hoover Concept. And basically it guides the large debris as the brush roll kicks it back. That it catches in that groove, and it guides it directly into the intake, which it really does affect the way it picks up. You can run over I've noticed as I run over a rock or anything large like that, popcorn kernel, you hear the brush flick it up into the nozzle, and then pretty much immediately after you hear it go up the hose. There's really no delay. It doesn't kick things around in the nozzle at all, which is very nice. I wish I had, pet hair and a dirty mess to vacuum up, but I don't. To show you, it's a very good vacuum. I like it quite a bit. Very glad that I got it.